Hello, Fayetteville, and welcome to Omnivision. We have a very exciting show today. I have two wonderful guests today, and we'll be discussing Middle East politics and policy and the wars in the Middle East, as well as the role of American-Israeli foreign policy in those Middle East wars. And also, one of my guests here, Spencer Hindmarsh, he is a veteran of the Afghanistan war. Air Force and intelligence was your responsibility. I'll have him explain that better in a minute, but he's also going to be, we'll talk about his new adventure. He's going to be going on something called a Ride Till the End, a bike ride around the country with military veterans to try to help to end the war. My other guest here is actually Spencer's father, David Hindmarsh, and he is a retired major from the U.S. Army, and he served in Vietnam. And I'm very honored to have, this is the first time I've had military veterans on the show, and I'm very honored to have this point of view and their insight that I'm sure they will be able to provide. I want to start off by asking Spencer to kind of explain sort of what your position was in the Air Force and kind of what your duties were and what your experiences were in that.
Sure. Yeah, I was an airborne cryptologic linguist on board the RC-135, which is a spy plane or a reconnaissance platform, depending on who you ask. Mm-hmm. And did it for 6 years, 6 years service doing that, active duty. And I went to the Defense and Language Institute, and I became fluent in Hebrew in order to provide, linguistic services to the Air Force on board the spy plane. And so I did that, and then I went to some additional military intelligence schools, and I learned kind of a little bit about how war works, basically, without getting into too many details there. Mm-hmm. And I did that for several months, and after that, I was stationed at Offutt, Nebraska, up there in Omaha for about 3 years. And I put in 2 tours in support of Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. Yeah, and so during language school, I got to study Hebrew, but I also got to study a lot of Middle Eastern, policy, Middle Eastern history, and just a lot of the culture, politically, and just as well as their culture.
So studying Hebrew and being a sort of an intelligence specialist, I mean, was your sort of interest in Israeli intelligence, or that would be the main Hebrew-speaking nation, or?
Yeah, it was just Israel. Israel's the only Hebrew-speaking nation, of course. So
it would seem to me, though, that America and Israel, we have such a close relationship, or whatever. It would seem that there would be not so much competition in terms of intelligence.
That's a good question. Well, you had the USS Liberty incident, and when I believe that was '69 when that happened, and once that happened, there was kind of a little bit of uneasiness between the Israelis and us.
So there is some competition.
So there's a little bit of competition. There's a lot of coordination, mostly coordination. Mm-hmm. But it's I guess you could say we're trying to keep each other honest in a way. Mm-hmm. There's.
So I don't understand though how a Hebrew linguist, intelligence specialist would. What that role would be in Afghanistan, since there's not much Hebrew spoken there.
That's a pretty good question. There's a lot of duties, kind of speaking generally about this, there's a lot of duties that are performed that aren't necessarily, there's a lot of support roles that can be played by multiple people, irrespective of what.
So that was just your specialty, it wasn't necessarily what you were utilizing.
But I could do kind of other things. I could be trained to do other
types of missions.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was over there a total about 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
In Afghanistan?
In Afghanistan,
But you were 6 years altogether.
6 years altogether.
Okay, and one interesting thing that we spoke of previously was sort of your experience training here in America as it relates to the Patriot Act. I don't know if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's common knowledge. Well, I don't know about common knowledge, but it's open source knowledge that we do in fact train here over domestic soil.
Okay, and the Patriot Act enabled that, or was this?
Well, we've been doing it for longer than the Patriot Act's been around. I think the Patriot Act and our training of our reconnaissance platforms over domestic soil they're not necessarily working together at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not necessarily interrelated at this point in time. But somewhere on down the line, the way that the military, I think, my personal opinion is that the military, or my analysis is that the military intelligence field, the direction it's moving, it's getting more and more. There's an exponential growth within the growing technology, and I think that in the future there could certainly be a tie or a link between the training of the military intelligence platform, aerial reconnaissance platforms, and the Patriot Act.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably only a matter of time.
Well, you say that it was sort of kind of random type. You were practicing with these spying technologies, intelligence technologies, and there was sort of a random kind of training. It wasn't necessarily targeted on, anyone where there would be a warrant or probable cause.
Well,
and so, I mean, is there a danger for?
That's kind of.
Or I didn't really understand what you were saying.
I can't really get too far into that as far as how it works, the procedures or the protocol on the plane. That's kind of
secret. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not totally able to go there or break that down for you. But but it can be. I guess it could be kind of random.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
it's
could an average American be wiretap or listened to, for instance, and just them not necessarily, there be a justification for their privacy being violated.
It's my personal opinion that in the future it'll go in that direction.
I guess the Bush administration did admit to warrantless wiretapping, so I guess it wouldn't be very much different.
No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be a stretch at all. And I've said it all along that as we move towards these drone technologies, we're trying to there's kind of word on the street that and it only makes sense that they're eventually going to replace the manned aerial reconnaissance flights with just drones. Mm-hmm. It only makes sense. We're already doing that with the Predator, and we're doing that with armed flights with
over
with
Pakistan.
Jets. Yeah. Oh, at Pakistan and Afghanistan and.
What's interesting is these drone flights have actually increased under the Obama administration beyond the Bush administration drone strikes. It's interesting. Because this is kind of people were under the impression that Obama would kind of move more in a peace direction.
Well, Obama definitely telegraphed that during the campaign, and he kind of there was a lot of rhetoric about either downscaling or ending the wars.
Right.
Really both, as far as Iraq is concerned. But yeah, I think one way that they need to keep the public either apathetic or in support of these wars, especially the war in Iraq. But I guess as far as the drones are concerned, really Afghanistan and Pakistan now,
right.
is that they want to limit the amount of casualties. Mm-hmm. Because if they can do that...
Well, American casualties. Because these bombings in these villages, there's,
we don't hear
you hear about
we don't hear
civilians
a whole lot
dying.
about the civilian casualties.
Well,
so they don't
I do.
I
read about it,
but you know what I'm saying.
Not on TV, yeah.
They're not going to necessarily read every time a civilian's killed in Afghanistan. You're just not going to hear about it.
Not going to hear it all.
So I think their main goal, and this kind of relates to Wesley Clark, and I think the bombing of, Kosovo or Serbia, was that they brag, at the end of that, their bragging rights were that we didn't lose a single American. And that they don't talk about the civilian casualties,
right.
and they don't talk about, they don't really get into that. The American people aren't really...
Well, they're
predominantly
collateral damage, right?
Yeah, and I think we need to be.